Shuhei Yoshida, former PlayStation executive, used the machine for hours and called its three-dimensional performance meh. He also questioned the 1080p recommendation, complained about slow launches, and called the price very unfriendly. Importantly, Yoshida praised the size, quiet operation, interface, faceplates, and controller wake function. Such balance makes his criticism more useful. Valve wants $1,049 for its cheapest Steam machine, and that price does not include Valve's controller. Today we answer 6 questions: price, hardware, performance, convenience, limitations, and the buyer. By the end, we will know whether Valve built the best living room PC for Steam users or simply priced a good idea out of the market. First, examine the bill. Buyers pay $1,049 for 512 GB of storage, 16 GB of system memory, and no Steam controller. Adding Valve's controller raises the package to $1,128. Choosing the 2 TB model brings the machine alone to $1,349. Bundling that version with the controller reaches $1,428. Existing Xbox, PlayStation, and Bluetooth controllers work, so Valve's model is optional. Nevertheless, a first-time buyer needs a controller, and Valve excludes one. Supporters will say this is a computer, not a subsidized console. Technically, that is correct. Unlike Sony or Microsoft, Valve is not recovering losses through a controlled store or subscriptions. However, its shape, interface, and controller-first design invite console comparisons. Against the standard 1 TB PlayStation 5, priced at $649 with a DualSense controller, the base Steam machine costs $400 more while offering half the storage. Additionally, PlayStation 5 games provide predictable compatibility, although Steam offers a larger, more flexible library. At the time of its review, PC Gamer found several 1 TB pre-builts with RTX 5060 graphics selling below $1,000. Even at $999, those desktops undercut Valve's base model by $50 while offering twice the storage. Still, raw value is not the whole comparison. Crucially, that desktop is larger, far less living room friendly, and lacks SteamOS, so this compares value rather than identical products. Prices change quickly, but calling it a computer proves nothing. Beneath the removable faceplate sits a 6-core Zen 4 processor with 12 threads and a 30-watt power limit. Alongside it sits an RDNA 3 graphics chip with 28 compute units, 8 GB of video memory, and 110 watts. Gamers Nexus found performance that frequently landed near an RTX 3060, Intel Arc B570, RX 6600, or older RX 5700, depending on the game. Ports reveal another compromise: 1 Gigabit Ethernet, 2 rear USB 2 sockets, and no analog audio output. None ruins it, but they look modest at this price. Here is the engineering conflict driving the product. Designers wanted tiny, quiet, repairable hardware, forcing power and cooling limits. Refusing console-style subsidies placed more of the hardware bill on the customer. Consequently, the price climbed while the gaming ceiling stayed in the middle of the market. Originally, Valve promoted 4K gaming at 60 frames per second with FSR upscaling. Later, that wording softened to up to 4K gaming with FSR 4.1. Meanwhile, games default to 1080p for what Valve calls a good experience. Formally, lighter games may run well at 4K realistically. Demanding releases require lower settings, heavy upscaling, reduced frame rates, or all three. Heavy upscaling builds from a lower resolution, softening details and destabilizing edges during movement. Frame generation inserts artificial images, but near 30 real frames, delay and visual errors can make 60 look better than it feels. Cyberpunk 2077 reached about 59 frames per second at 1080p Ultra without ray tracing in Gamers Nexus testing. Enabling medium ray tracing dropped it to roughly 21 before later software work improved it somewhat. Elsewhere, The Outer Worlds 2 produced around 26 frames per second at 1080p using very high settings. Black Myth Wukong managed about 14 frames with demanding ray tracing and quality upscaling, rising to roughly 17 after a Valve patch. Collectively, these results show buyers must choose realistic settings and usually disable ray tracing. Average frame rates tell only part of the story because uneven delivery can still feel rough. Therefore, one average is evidence, not a complete verdict. Video memory explains part of the limitation. 8 GB is enough for many games at 1080p with sensible textures. Newer releases can exceed it with higher textures, resolution, or ray tracing. Once a game demands more memory than the chip provides, performance may fall, textures may load poorly, or settings must drop. Thus, 8 GB is not immediate obsolescence, but it gives a premium machine less room for future demanding games. Suddenly, The premium experience becomes lower shadows, disabled reflections, active upscaling, and another graphics menu visit. Console owners accept performance modes, but consoles cost less and receive fixed optimization targets. PC owners accept settings, but normally gain stronger upgrades, wider hardware choice, or better performance per dollar. Unfortunately, standing between both markets means inheriting complaints from each. Convenience matters because Valve is selling more than frame rates. SteamOS offers a controller-focused interface, quick library access, free online multiplayer, and fewer desktop interruptions than Windows. Proton allows many Windows games to run on Linux without another operating system. Years of Steam Deck work have transformed Linux gaming into a practical platform. F124 would not run during Gamers Nexus testing because its anti-cheat software did not support SteamOS. Other tested games selected outdated Linux versions, detected the machine incorrectly, disabled features, or required Proton and resolution changes. One system option disables Steam Deck auto-detection because some games mistake the machine for Valve's handheld. Imagine explaining that menu to somebody who paid extra to avoid computer nonsense. Picture friends waiting while the owner searches for a working Proton version. Remember that console convenience succeeds because the customer rarely becomes the unpaid technician. Before purchasing, buyers should check whether every important game is rated Steam Machine verified, playable, unsupported, or unknown, then read recent user reports. Verified means it passes Valve's checks, playable can require manual work, unsupported signals an incompatibility, and unknown means testing is incomplete. Doing so can expose unsupported anti-cheat or launcher problems before payment. Boot times created another complaint. According to Yoshida, some games took unusually long to begin. Patches, cached shaders, game updates, and SteamOS improvements may shorten those delays. Similarly, Proton compatibility, mistaken hardware detection, and resolution bugs can improve after launch. Separating them from hardware limits matters because Valve can repair part of the rough experience. Software updates, however, cannot remove the 30-watt processor limit, add video memory, replace the graphics chip, or create high-end hardware. No patch can make 8 GB become 16. Likewise, no driver erases the difference between midrange silicon and a faster graphics card. This distinction creates the honest verdict: compatibility may improve, but the performance class remains. Valve's initial retail units reportedly use one 16GB DDR5 module, although earlier plans allowed two 8GB sticks depending on supply. Using one module leaves the second slot open, making a future move to 32GB cheaper. Running two matched modules normally gives the processor more memory bandwidth. Internal testing suggested the gaming difference was limited. Follow-up work found little change in some games, measurable gains in processor-heavy titles, and nearly 20% in one compression workload. Viewed honestly, it is another cost-conscious decision that looks strange inside premium hardware. 16GB is becoming the minimum comfortable amount for modern gaming, although SteamOS generally uses less memory than Windows. Owners can replace the storage and upgrade system memory, which beats a sealed console. Yet the processor and graphics chip remain fixed to the board. Accordingly, the components determining future performance cannot receive ordinary desktop upgrades. Repairability has value, but nobody should confuse it with full flexibility. Positively, the machine is compact, quiet, easy to navigate, and designed with replaceable parts in mind. Compared with a normal desktop, the Steam machine can disappear into an entertainment setup, stay quiet, and offer controller-first startup. Testing found low gaming noise and acceptable temperatures. Planned replacement part support treats owners better than many sealed devices. More broadly, SteamOS provides a serious gaming alternative to Windows. Beyond this box, Proton has expanded Linux compatibility for existing computers and handhelds. Long-term costs may favor Steam because sales are frequent, multiplayer needs no console subscription, and purchases follow the owner. Those advantages are genuine. Who, then, is the normal customer? Enthusiasts comfortable with desktops can build, buy or upgrade something faster near this budget. Traditional console players can spend roughly $400 less on a PlayStation 5 and receive simpler compatibility. Current PC owners can connect their machine to the television, use a cable, or stream through Steam Remote Play. Budget shoppers can choose a console, handheld, used system, or cheaper pre-built. Maybe the ideal buyer owns hundreds of Steam games, dislikes Windows, refuses to build, wants quiet hardware, and accepts 1080p. Perhaps that person also values free multiplayer, open software, repair support, and Steam's catalog. Certainly, such buyers exist. Whether millions exist at this price remains the question. Defenders correctly point toward expensive memory, costly storage, unstable component supply, and Valve's smaller purchasing power beside Sony or Microsoft. Furthermore, Valve appears unwilling to sell hardware at a major loss and recover money through a locked ecosystem. Economically, those pressures explain the price. Plainly, they do not make the customer's bill friendlier. Buy this machine if you specifically want SteamOS, a tiny quiet case, controller navigation, upgradable storage, and no interest in building a desktop. Wait for a discount if the idea appeals but value matters more than early adoption. Skip it if performance per dollar, strong ray tracing, guaranteed compatibility, or major future upgrades are priorities. Fundamentally, this is a polished, repair-conscious computer with ambitious software and ordinary gaming power. Its 1080p default is sensible for the hardware, yet awkward beside 4K marketing and a premium price. Linux compatibility is impressive, yet less predictable than dedicated console support. Upgradable memory and storage beat a sealed system, yet the main performance parts remain fixed. Controller navigation feels convenient, yet the official controller costs extra. Would you pay more than $1,000 for a quiet SteamOS box, or choose a cheaper console or faster PC? Ultimately, that choice decides whether the Steam machine appears brilliant or confused. Remove several $100s and the conversation changes immediately. Keep the current price and every strength becomes a defense against serious alternatives. In summary, Valve wants premium PC money for midrange performance, console convenience with occasional troubleshooting, and 4K ambition beginning at 1080p. Clearly, the Steam machine is not garbage. Worse for Valve, it is an interesting product trapped behind a price that destroys its reason to exist.